Hi all, I thought I'd do a spin-off video about the French defence line that I faced after knight d2, where it could have been knight c3 and then black taking on e4, knight takes e4 and then playing knight d7. So I think some of the ideas of this, it's very solid for black. Black isn't allowing any advance with e5 because the e-pawn's gone, so potentially there's pressure on the d pawn. And interesting, a lot of players are playing d takes c5. I think that's the theoretical idea. It's called, I think, the Rubinstein variation. If we follow knight f3, you see we're in French Rubinstein, Rubinstein French, the game collections here. And there's some interesting notable games actually at chessgames.com, which I thought we could go over some of them. Okay, so after knight g f6, is there I think the first one I wanted to have a look at was actually a Rubinstein game, slightly different move order, so let's have a look at that. I've got those tabs like ready and waiting here. So Akiba Rubinstein was white actually against his own variation here, and what's interesting, I found 3 games which have a sort of common disaster theme for black, relating to black playing c5 and white taking on c5 and black wasting a bit of time with bishop c5, and this pin meaning there's actually a lot of pressure on h7, and rook d3 to h3 is a dangerous idea. That's the gist of these 3 set of games that I found here, stemming back to this key game. Now this is Rubinstein at his peak in 1912. Before 1915 he was like 3-0 up against Alexandre Alekhine, who was, you know, up and coming, but I think this is Rubinstein on his peak. So what did he do back in 1912? I think he played better than I did this morning actually. He didn't take immediately, and nowadays I think there is a trend just to take on f6 immediately to cut out some black options actually of knight e4. Well, that's the first point. Okay, but apart from that, he takes now, so we end up transposing. So black's idea is a c5, and you know, to get white not only you know, a dangerously weak pawn, but black's got already the blasting semi-open d file. So this c5 has extra venom, but white's counter to this, as demonstrated by this game, is to just take on c5, knowing that actually a rook lift can occur earlier with dangerous pressure against the black king. Now this game looked like a terrible blunder from black, but I think black does have a lot of difficulties. He's offering bishop f6 on the plate here, but at the moment it wasn't sort of taken. But now it's becoming extra kind of dangerous, this bishop f6 idea. So black actually decided to play knight d5. And here, black's in real trouble now already after c4. There's an idea of queen e4 in some lines now, forking h7 and the a8 rook. So black played knight b4, then bishop e4 was played now, and here actually black's already in big trouble. Okay, I think one problem, I think that there's an idea of, well, if bishop b7, there's rook d7. If the rook moves, then maybe a6 and b4 are also dangerous, but also I'm looking at bishop h7 as being dangerous. The queen can't take down bishop h7. So it looks very dangerous for black, and black played bishop d6, and now knight g4, so still the rook's attacked. Now we saw f5, bishop takes rook, pawn takes, g3, just protecting h2 for a moment, knight c6 takes. So white's material up. Has black got any compensation here? Not really. He just well, there is a big threat now actually of knight f3 check winning the queen, but rook d3 stops any knight f3s and knight h4s. It's just offering an exchange sack, so white is just better again now. He's just content actually to be a pawn up here, so he can win that. He's one of the finest endgame players anyway, if it went to an endgame. And he just grinds down the opponent from here. So 2 pawns up, and then winning like that. Okay, so that was an early kind of, it looked like an early sort of disaster example. But if we look carefully, here's another two games, and you might seem to agree with me. I don't know if you're going to agree with me after this, that there's some issues for black in this line. If we look at this girlfriend game, which is another notable game according to ChessGames.com in this line, we see, okay, so this idea of the knight d7 again. So now look, the modern idea is just to take on f6, forget bishop g5. Black doesn't really want to take with the queen because the queen's going to end up getting trapped, you know, sometimes with bishop g5 and bishop d3. Or bishop d3 immediately threatens to trap the queen, actually. So black would have to waste time again moving the queen. So I think that's why black plays knight takes f6. So we see bishop d3 inviting this c5. And black's not wasting any time moving the bishop and then later playing c5 because dc is going to lose black a tempo. But so c5 immediately, let's imagine. There's another idea, but I'll reserve that later, this knight e5 stuff, but that's without moving the bishop. Let's look at this one first. So here we see taking on c5, queen e2, which lines up the potential battery. You know, for bishop g5 takes queen e4, we've got targets on h7 and a8. Cheap tactical idea behind this, I suppose you could argue, that b6 is not possible for a while. So rook d1. But now knight e5, and this seems to be, you know, as attacking position go. Well, this was in the Munich Intel Express Blitz of 1994, but this looks to be a nicer attacking position than what I was playing for with casting queenside. Because, well, white's also got a potential 3-2 pawn majority, but forget the pawn majority for a moment. The important thing there is actually c4 to seal off d5 from black. So in fact this is used, c4, so restricting the knight. Okay, now the bishop goes back. And it just looks to be an uncomfortable position for Vladimir Kramnik here. And after c5 he's already blundered. See, bishop d6 was actually a blunder. And it just shows the danger of this position actually. But where could the queen go? You know, maybe queen b6 actually. It was a blitz game. Knight c6, bishop e5. But still, I thought white has a very comfortable position here. I know it was just a blitz game, but so you know, this French defence Rubinstein variation, if it's going to give white this comfortable position after dc, and you get this pawn majority, you cut off the knight from d5 with c4 later. That looks to be comfortable. But a blunder was played here, and white ended up winning the exchange. And I guess the rest of the game is not... well, it's brilliant, actually, the rest of the game. Let's have a look at it, sorry. So he's won the exchange. Now he sacks a bishop. Then he sacks another bishop. There's a famous, I think, Tarrasch double bishop sack. And he plays like the rook lift now. So it's a beautiful, actually, blitz game with this rook d3. Okay, so black sacked one piece back to stop rook h3. But now this check picks up the bishop. Actually, so that was quite a crushing blitz game. But let's remember that's a blitz game. But let's look at another example in this line now. This is the up-and-coming Caruana against Berg, who's a very attacking, dynamic player as well. But knight d7 was chosen by Berg. So melting icebergs was the game of the day. So this wasn't... it's Olympia 2008. So white takes on f6. So I think this is a modern trend. Just to take on f6, wait for the c5, take... d takes c5, because I think this rook lift is actually important. Okay, black's able to get in the quick b6 and bishop b7 here. There's no time for the cheaper with bishop f6 and queen e4. But now knight e5, and we're reaching that position, if you know, like the Kramnik game, where white looks comfortable. White has the 3-2 pawn majority, the possibility of c4 cutting off the knight, and maybe adding more pressure to bear on the king side. Now black reacted... well, black hasn't allowed white c4 because now there's knight b4s anyway. Okay, but queen e4, and look, you can see the pressure now on the king side here, with e5 being well supported. Now knight takes f7, and this really just batters the black king, this sack, which shows some of the dangers of this line actually, because there's semi-open e-file. Remember, black had that semi-open d-file, but white, when d takes e4 happened, you know, white was given the semi-open e-file. So we're seeing an f7 tactic, and now rook takes e6, and the king is just being brought out. It dare not take there. It looks pretty dangerous without doing too much calculation. Maybe bishop c4 is the key move to sort of slaughter the black king there, actually, because bishop d5, rook e1, then taking on d5. So this happened. So it's quite a slaughter with the king just getting kicked around. So this shows quite a crush, actually. White's winning all the bits now after take on c6, take on a8, bishop up. So let's see, how did that occur? That was basically, so if I make this El Presidente, I'll take on f6, I'll take on c5, and just try and bring some pressure to bear on e5. Getting the king out of the way, bit of prophylaxis there. This king, well, king h1, just in case f4 is useful, I suppose. Not moving the f pawn yet, though. Just relying on piece play and a piece sack. So that was a dramatic example. But I've got some more to have a look at, actually. Now, this is a different idea in this variation. It's called the Kasparov attack, actually. And I feel a bit bad not really knowing about it, that it was called the Kasparov attack. Now, I have got the game which might have caused the name Kasparov attack. I don't know how many of you on YouTube were familiar with the Kasparov attack variation. What is it? Well, I believe it's knowing black's going to play this c5. So white actually plays c3, which looks like an innocuous move. But it does mean queen a4 might be a possibility, which means the diagonal might be more dangerous. And in particular, d7 might be more dangerous. So black plays that usual c5, not wanting to waste, a tempo with bishop e7 then c5 later when dc might be annoying. But now knight e5, this pouncing move looks a bit outrageous. It's a rule-breaking move. Tarrasch might be not be very pleased with it, moving a piece twice in the opening. A rule-breaking move. But the thing is, this diagonal, this bishop b5 check, this bishop hasn't moved yet. So if it can go to b5, pick up the light square bishop, because knight d7, queen h5 or f3 might be dangerous, or even queen a4 in some lines. So let's have a look. a6 is played to stop bishop b5, but now bishop g5, and now Adams is not afraid to go into even a queenless position. He's still got a lot of pressure bearing down on black, and in fact there was a very nice move played here. Actually, if I give you 10 seconds, I wonder if you can spot it. 10 seconds starting from now. Bang. Because of rook d7 check. So he won a bishop, it seems. But if you take the bishop here, king takes e5, carnivorous king. But actually, Adams now plays, I wonder if you can spot it, another 5 seconds starting from now. f4, so he's still got the threat on b7. Also f7 is now a threat of mate, so that's how he's got a pawn out of that. He's still threatening mate and the bishop, so he's got a winning position basically from that little tactic. So delightful, and here the game ended. So it was only a 25 move game. So that's Kasparov attack. Now let's have a look at how Kasparov himself used this Kasparov attack. So we're saying a sneaky little c3 move in this line. So you take on f6, but this, I suppose it's a newish idea dating from 2002. You play this sneaky little c3, almost as if it's prophylaxis against c5 cd, but no, it's I think it's about this pouncing move, knight e5, because it's played here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea is this, that c3 is not about supporting d4, but it's about this bishop b5 and queen a4 idea. Knight d7. Okay, what does Kasparov do? He uses bishop b5 because a6 was neglected, and now queen g4. Actually, forget queen a4. Well, the queen's on d8. Queen a4 is not as effective as queen g4. Kasparov sacks a pawn. Well, he attempts to. He's going to. He's sacking a pawn here with the black king now not able to castle, and he scored a brilliant win from this position. Because if we have a look, a lot of pressure on the black king side, a lot of weaknesses, and there's a beautiful rook lift again, rook d3. So I suppose between the two different plans, there's this common idea of this rook lift to d3 actually, which is at the intersection of both plans. And you see here, after rook h3, there was actually a threat of queen h7 takes and then winning the queen. That's why the queen is now defended by the king here against that tactic. But bishop g6 is now on the card, so that's defended. g4 just tearing into the king side. Now it's difficult for black to develop that bishop without losing it, you know, sort of similar tactic like we've seen before, this rook d7 in the Adams game. Okay, now doubling on the d file, rook d6, it's pretty nasty pressure. Kasparov is going to make a dent somewhere. He makes a dent on the queen side, and black is about to crack, I think. He's about to crack because now there's bishop h5. And now rook takes e6, and this is a real crush because now the idea, if king e6, there's rook d6 just winning the queen. So that's end of game there. If queen takes, there's queen g7 just winning a rook. If the king, well, or mating, sorry. That's just total disaster, queen e6 for queen g7. So this is an interesting line. And there's another example here. So this c3. So I think it's very interesting to know this, some of these key ideas in this variation, the Rubinstein variation. Let's have a look at another example game. This time Karpov in the Rubinstein variation being a victim of the Kasparov attack. So this kind of passive, almost prophylaxis looking c3 move. But then the pouncing move knight e5, so that's the idea. So a6 actually stops the bishop b5 stuff. But now we have this exchange on f6 in this game. Knight b6, it goes on a different path, with white having a different sort of initiative actually in the position. A lot of pressure. Queen a4 comes in handy there. A lot of pressure, and in fact Karpov loses his queen now to this horrible tactic, because it takes the bishop we pinned, so queen c7. So horrible tactic there to beat Karpov. But yeah, these are the kind of the notable games are actually very exciting to have a look at actually. So here, so knight takes f6. What I've done is show you actually some of the notable games in this area of chess games gone here. So we've seen Caruana Berg, Gelfand Kramnik, Kasparov Ponomrov, Adams Kobian. So this c3, I wonder if it does call this the Kasparov attack. c3 here, not moving the bishop yet. You don't want to lose your tempo. So c5, and then we see knight e5. Okay, the notable games has gone now. Well, there's these three games here. But the notable games actually, if we look earlier, it was we've seen the Adams Akopian game, we've seen the Karpov win, and we've seen the Kasparov win. So here there's one game missing we haven't seen in 1927. Okay, just for a bit of completeness, let's have a quick look at this one. So this was with the not with c3 though, bishop d3. No, this is different. So we've gone off a different path, and this is kind of a different thing that I was sort of outrageously trying to do, castle queen side. But I like these other ideas where white's just casting king side, and you know, I don't want to wreck your play that you're always trying to like castle queen side. So I hope the examples I've just shown you kind of show you know, different ways of playing the position. Okay, this castle queen side, did it work? D takes c5 though, still a theme. Maybe to try and use the d file. I haven't actually even checked this game not once myself, so let's just have a look. So white just got in a caveman attack here. Queen takes h6, very nice caveman attack. Beautiful move, very nice move to play, just to rip open the file for a mating attack. Or is it h7? Oh, rook g8. Whoa, h7 is accelerated, much stronger than h7. Run with check. So takes h7, that'll be, let's have a look at that again. Beautiful game. So, but I think the other ones are more simple than this. So white is kind of maybe taking a different sort of risk, casting queenside. So this was in Magdeburg 1927, where white seemed to be getting away with a crude attack, well, very successfully getting away with this attack. But this queen h6, very nice move, because otherwise there's a pin on h4. So it's resources like that which make chess, you know, a very dangerous game for people's kings. Actually, if you're black and you were thinking everything's okay, then you'll be rudely awakened here with queen takes h6. Whoops. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that game selection. I just really wanted to run with you some notable games. So they date back to Rubinstein 1912, Boris Gelfand here, and so these three games are kind of demonstrating you know, pressure without the c3 knight e5 move. But this Kasparov attack, I think, is with this c3 move. So we saw this c3 move with the idea of a knight e5, not moving the bishop. Yeah, it's not wasting time moving the bishop. So we saw that in 2 games. Hope you enjoyed that. Comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.